So I'm in the middle of one of my regular Friday live streams doing some work on the action RPG tutorial, and a dude in chat asked about the health rendering that we've got up here, and if I had any kind of tutorials on rendering half hearts or quarter hearts or that kind of thing. And I was like, screw it, that won't be too hard to do, let's just work that out on the fly. So I worked it out on the fly, and now I'm just doing a quick thing to kind of show you how it works as a kind of mini tutorial that randomly I was inspired to do in the middle of this stream. At the moment we render whole hearts. We have a maximum amount of health and an amount of health that we currently have. And if I just pop over to our UI, what we do is we just cycle through. Since we know how much health we have at any point in time, we know what our maximum health is. We cycle through from 1 to our maximum health, drawing the sprites, adjusting the position for each art we're drawing. And what I've done is I've been kind of sneaky and used a condition for the sprite index of draw sprite. So when deciding what frame to draw, I draw a frame based on whether or not the heart we're up to is greater than our current health. Okay, so we cycle to our max health, and if the heart we're drawing is above our current health, then we draw the empty heart, and if it's not, then we draw the full heart. Okay, and so that was all I had for a while, was just these two hearts. But I built in these just to demonstrate how you can very easily change the system to draw quarter, half, and three-quarter hearts. So what we can do is we can actually kind of manipulate this line and just add a further condition based on whether or not our health is over or is within a certain fraction, right? But first of all, since we're already tracking our health and our current maximum health, what we need to do is track the fraction on the end of that. So if we have a health of like 2.7, we need to get that 0.7 so we know how much of a fraction to draw. So we can do that very easily just by doing something like var underscore player health frac equals, and then there's a function for this called frac, open bracket, player health. So what does frac do? Frac will return that fraction. So if we have a health of 5.534, what frac will return is 0.534 when applied to that number. Okay, it just gets that fraction off the end for us. So it just lets us see whether or not that's over a quarter or over a half, etc. And so we know exactly what it is we're going to need to draw. So once we have that, what we can do is, as I said, we can just manipulate this condition here to basically add another condition. So we know at the moment if that's image index of 0 is this, and image index of 1 is an empty heart. We can just put these extra ones on the end here and just keep adding 1 to that index if these conditions are in turn true. So if we've got enough to fill a quarter heart, we add 1. If we've enough to do a half heart, add another 1. And so on. Let's just do the half one for now, because that's the easiest one on here. So what we do is simply add to that, open brackets, I equals player health plus 1. So first of all, just checking that we are at the first empty heart we would expect to draw, right? Because if you've got 2.6 health, you want to draw those first two health, those first two hearts, and then on the first empty heart you would draw, that's where your fraction is going to come in. That's where your half heart or quarter heart or whatever is going to come in. Okay, so that needs to be true, and player health frac needs to be greater than 0. And then if we wrap that all together, so, and you can just check just by highlighting that bracket there, it'll show you that that's wrapped together all as one big condition. So this is all going to come back as 1 or 0, depending on if those things are true. If both those things are true, so we have some fraction of health above the whole number. So we don't have 5 health, we have 5.2 health, or 5.1 health, or 5.7 health, right? We want to draw that half heart. So with those things true, in fact, let's just move that to here, because that assumes that we've only got this half heart here. Pretend these two don't exist for now, okay? So we got those two, and then let's just manipulate how much health we actually have. So I've got it set to 6.25 here. Yeah, sure, that's fine. and with a maximum health of 8. So we should see 8 health bars, and not health. We should see 8 hearts, and 6 of them full and 1 of them half full. Okay, that would have worked if I'd have put a little comma in here, but I didn't. Well, this is what happens when we do this thing live. Anyway, so run that. What is to say? What we should expect to see is 8 hearts, 1 of them half full. It's not working. Why is it not working? Okay, the thing I messed up was I needed to add this line in as well, where I then remove that decimal fraction from player health, because obviously I is never going to exactly equal underscore player health plus 1 if this is a non-integer number, right? So my mistake, this is what happens when we do it live. Okay, so I just had to add in this line here, so after getting that 0.75 off of that, say, 6.75 number, we remove it from player health, so the player health is just 6, which is fine because it's just a temporary variable. It's not affecting our global player health. I thought I didn't have to include that when I rewrote it, but actually it was quite important. Well, anyway though, this works. So if I press F5 now, run this, we should see, hopefully this time, thank you, Harpies, for the host. That's very cool. We should see as finally we see 8 hearts, 6 of them full, 1 of them half full. Okay, we got there in the end. So the other thing then, so we can do this just to draw half hearts really easily. So and it works with any fraction as well. So really, it's just checking and see if we have like up to anywhere between like 0 and 1 of a heart, and it's just showing it as a half heart. It's kind of a vague estimate. But we can also be more accurate than that and draw all 3 fractions, right? So what I can do is if I move these in order, basically all we need to do is keep adding 1 to the index every time it passes a certain threshold, right? So at the moment we're just saying if anything, just add 1 to it. But if we just add 1 per threshold is true, so if it's anything between 0 and a quarter, anything between a quarter and a half, anything over a half and not 1, do the 3/4 one, right? Rather than keep adding, because this will just make this line stupid long, what we'll do instead is I'll type var image index, because that's what it's actually going to be, equals this I greater than player health, right? And then what we'll do is if that condition is true, because that needs to be true for all of them. So if we're on the heart that will be drawn in fractions, we can add this condition onto it. So and let's just remove all of that and put image index, comma, so that would add that if. So we'll add 1 if there is something to draw, so it'll draw that first quarter no matter what, as long as there is some fraction. But if that fraction is greater than 0.25, let's add another 1, because we want to draw the half heart at that point. But if it's greater than 0.5, then we want to draw that final 3/4 heart. And that's really all there is to it. So we do that now with what was our health at? 6.25. So if we set this to 6.7, we should see 6 full hearts, a 3/4 heart, and 1 empty heart. And we do, yeah. we see exactly that. It's working this time. It actually worked first try. Thank God. So let's just change this around a bit. So let's say like 3.2. So that should show like 1/4, like 3 full horns and 1/4 one. There we go. And obviously this works like exactly as well. So if we do 4.50, you know, it would obviously draw the exact ones. Because I figure that's probably what you would use, right? If you're doing, but not necessarily, but if you're making a game and you're representing your health in quarter fractions, you're probably just going to have your enemies deal like 0.25 damage or 0.5 damage or the exact figures, right? The exact closest to integer you can figures that you're able to represent. You're probably not going to have anything do 9.0213 damage. But if you do, doing it like this actually supports that just fine, and it draws the closest estimate it can to the amount of actual health you've got, which can be really useful. It allows you a bit more flexibility, allows you to do systems where you're drawing health that's kind of representative but not necessarily exact, and play around with more things like that. I'll leave that up on the screen as that's most of the code there. Yeah, this is just a quick live tutorial on a thing I was just vaguely inspired to do by a guy vaguely asking about it in chat. Hope that was helpful. This RPG tutorial will arrive at some point or other, I promise. It's getting there. There's still just a lot to do. Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.